Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It is the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast reporting live from a Sunday. And it's normally Victory Sunday. It's still Victory Sunday because V's for victory. That's why we do this. But we weren't so victorious last night. SC went to, I just don't even know what to say, Jamal. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm definitely disappointed. It's normal Sunday. You guys go ahead and drop your questions. We will answer them. We got the madman here. It's me, Coach Rowe. Oh, like I told you, Jamal, before what was the final score? 40-20 or something
40,
like that?
48-20.
48-20. Yeah. 28-point loss by the Trojans. As you guys join in, you know how we do on Sundays. Go ahead and drop your comments. We'll answer them. We're interactive. In the meantime, me and Jamal just discuss this. And like I said, Jamal, before we even got on here, I said the one day we needed the defense to show up, the defense didn't show up. Just needed them one day. We don't need them the rest of the year. We just needed them one day. We needed them one day that the defense to show up. Right? If the defense would have showed up, I believe Caleb would have overcame his first half. That's all we needed, right? And it was just, it's kind of everything we talked about. You know what I mean? Like everything that we talked about and everything that we said, the Roosters finally came home to roost. And here we are. Like, I'm just speechless. Like, I'm just completely speechless. I don't have anything to say about it. How are your feelings about the game? Go ahead and drop your questions. We'll get them answered. Are you there? I might have lost Jamal too. Frozen. Both of our guys are out on the road. Ryan should be joining in from South Bend soon. Here we go. Coach and Jamal. Yes, the online didn't play great, but the star QB can't throw 3 picks on your side of the field. 100%. Man, yeah, he had a bad first half. I will admit to that. And now he jeopardized his chance to be a back-to-back Heisman winner. But at the end of the day, you got to have a model that you can't beat us kicking field goals, right? And I'm not going to blame anybody. Nobody played well, offense or defense. None of them played well. And so at the end of the day, you got to at least hold those into at least field goals and to give a fighting chance. But you still got to give. I will say this, and I don't know if you agree with me. Towards the end, there was a comeback brewing. It was starting to brew up a little bit, and you saw Caleb start to do what Caleb does, and then they just couldn't hold him. Like, you guys, just get us a stop so we can make something happen, and they just couldn't get the stop. I don't know if you heard me, Jamal. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
I don't know if you heard me or not, but I was just saying, like, that here was the first question. It says you can't throw 3 picks. And I said my theory is you can't beat us with field goals, right? Even if it's on your side of the field, even if you do give up 7 points out of one of those picks, and then you have 6, right? Like, you can't beat us with field goals. Like, at least give us a chance. Like, and I told him, like, the chickens came home to roost. We've been talking about this all day. Like, it's going to be a day where we're going to rely on the defense, and we were not able to rely on the defense. Like, the offense is going to have bad days. And then at the end of the day, it's not offense, right? It's Caleb was not Caleb, right? And I always said there's a travel problem, and it showed. Let's see. He said,
Yeah, Coach. I mean, I'll step in here if you don't mind, and
go
and
ahead.
I agree with LV Live. Actually, this was sort of ironic in that I thought the defense played pretty decently last night. They played pretty well. I mean, at the end of the day, Notre Dame only had 251 yards of total offense. When you look at Notre Dame's 6 touchdowns last night, 3 of them were on short fields because of the interception in the first half. One was a kickoff return. One was a scoop and score. They really only had 1 touchdown last night where they had to drive the ball down the field. Last night was really all about Caleb. I mean, we've been so we've been so effusatory with his praise all year. look, he lost the game last night, and he probably lost his Heisman last night. I mean,
Yeah.
3 interceptions in the first half. And Fred, I know, the defense maybe could have done more, but you got to look. Those 3 drives, one started at the Notre Dame 2-yard line, one started at the Notre Dame 12, one started at the USC 2-yard line, one started at the USC 12-yard line, and one started at the USC 49-yard line. So they didn't even have to go more than half the field on those 3 interceptions. So, it was 24-3 at that point, and it was just catch up. Now, having said that, I agree with you. I think at 24-13, there was sort of an opportunity maybe to kind of get it going. And that's when Hartman hit that big strike to Tyree, for 50 yards. And that kind of ultimately sort of ended the game. And then it was just kind of garbage time there. But hard to believe, hard to say this, considering how the first 6 games went this season. Caleb Williams lost the game last night.
Yes. No, I'm not. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I will tell you this. I think Caleb Williams became a victim. I think I should say this. I think Caleb got cocky last night, and I think that Caleb got to a point to where he became a little bit too arrogant, I guess you would say. Those are bad too. I'm fucking around with the things. I'm sorry. He came a little bit too arrogant, and then it finally caught up with him, right? And so I think his arrogance hurt him, right? He's been able to make throws like that. He's been able to run around and do everything like that. It was interesting because I've mentioned this in the past that the O-line isn't that great. That's that they're about average. And Notre Dame did an excellent job on defense. Just pressure the quarterback. You know what I mean? And once he pressured the quarterback and made him make a decision, I feel like they got that game plan from Arizona. And then, Jamal, what you said earlier in the year, too, the receivers weren't great last night either, And so that's when it's just like, all right, the switch didn't flip. You remember I was like, Arizona game, hopefully this flipped the switch. Like, oh, this is for real and anybody could beat us. And Ryan has said this multiple times, too. They could lose to anybody and they could beat anybody. Last night showed that they could lose to anybody. They can't just they have this thing, and I will tell you this, especially in high school, because I went to Long Beach Poly. We had this idea that all we had to do was show up, and because our jersey said Poly and we had those gold helmets, people were afraid to play us. At one point, SC was like that. SC's not like that anymore. People don't care that you're SC right now. You can't just show up and there's going to be a fear from the other team. You have to go out there and physically dominate. You know what I mean? So they didn't do that. They thought they would just go to Notre Dame, go to South Bend, put up a bunch of points because we have Caleb. Caleb wasn't on last night. And that happens, right? Everybody's not going to be great, and that happens, but there was no backup plan. You can't roll the ball to Caleb and say, go win us the game. And there was no backup plan. So, yeah, let me get to some of these comments. Ryan, can you hear us?
Yeah, we're good. What's up? Sorry, Wi-Fi issues over here in Michigan City, Indiana. And we'll see.
Are you at the Holiday Inn?
No, it's a Bayshore Inn.
Oh,
it's not very nice. It's not very nice.
We stayed at the Holiday Inn when we played there.
That was probably in South Bend. I'm like an hour outside of it because everything in South Bend was crazy expensive. So
we stayed in Michigan City. We stayed at a Holiday Inn
in Michigan City. Okay. Well, yeah. Went to the BK last night. No, just
Ryan,
to add on that, or go ahead.
I was going to say, you go ahead. You were there last night. Just go ahead and tell us what it was like and how when the air left from the SC side, and then we'll get into this question right here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great atmosphere, obviously. Fun first time being down in Notre Dame, South Bend. Awesome college town. Echoing what you guys said, I thought the defense played really well. I mean, for what we've seen of this defense, this was by far the defense's best game. And I was down on the field for a bit of it, and I've been on down on fields and others, and you can just tell when the physicalities matched, and they matched their physicality. And yeah, they gave up that one big play. That was the bad one. But other than that, the offense didn't do them any favors. I'll just go to this guy's comment because I was going to comment on that anyway. Offensive line this is just not a really good offensive line unit. And so when you know that, and as a coaching staff, you should know that, and as a quarterback, you should know that. This is where, as Caleb, you need to get the ball out quick, and as Lincoln Riley, you need to draw up plays that aren't so long developing. And every single play it seemed like it's a long developing play with 10 to 15 yard routes for these receivers. And then Caleb does this continual, which, it's worked in the past. So I'm not blaming him, but his spinning out of the pocket, and Notre Dame was really disciplined in having their edge rushers keep contained, and they were just waiting for him to spin left or right out of the pocket, and we're waiting for him. So, we could put blame a number of different ways, but when that's coming, you got a game plan around that. And as a quarterback, you got to know, okay, these guys are coming. I got to get this ball out quick, and I can't just spin and dance and expect it to make magic every time. So tough game.
Yeah.
One thing, Rye, I'll add, to Johnny C's comment here. I mean, there's a book on SC, and I've been kind of saying it now for a few weeks, and hopefully people will start listening a bit. But there's 3 ingredients to beat SC. One is you need to have a seasoned quarterback. The second is you need to be able to bring pressure with 4 and drop 7 back, and then play variation off of that, bring corner blitzes, bring delayed pressure. And the third is you got to be able to win in short yardage. Arizona was able to do the first 2 of those 3 things. Fafita played awesome, and they were able to drop 8 actually and just rush 3, and that's how they were able to stay in the game. But where they lost the game was in short yardage. Notre Dame, which is why I picked Notre Dame to beat SC, can do all 3 of those things. And you saw it last night again, where they brought pressure with 4 and they dropped 7 back. And then there was variation off of that. There was delayed corner blitzes. There was a delayed linebacker blitz. And there's now a book on Caleb where if you can bring sort of edge pressure and stay contained, not on the edge, but on the interior, and you sort of shrink that pocket where he doesn't have these gaps left to right, because he doesn't roll out the way traditional quarterbacks do. He shoots to the left, he shoots to the right, he backs up. If you just shrink the pocket with very tactical pressure, the whole offense gets completely out of rhythm, and that's what we saw last night. And that's what's going to be now the book moving forward. Oregon's going to do it. Washington's going to do it. UCLA's going to do it. Utah's going to do it. And so now the question is going to be, do those teams have enough offensively to be able to sort of make USC pay when they do that defensively? But the defensive book now is written moving forward. And now it's going to come down to Lincoln Riley and Caleb making the adjustment, Ryan, like you said.
Thanks a lot, Jedfish. So no offensive adjustments.
Spanked Washington State yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, they did. They did. No offensive adjustment whatsoever. Air raid stubbornness. So yeah, you're right. And then they got into panic mode. And I don't know if you guys noticed this. Then they started just feeding Zachariah Branch. Find Zach Branch. Like, we have to find him. And let's get him the ball in his hands any way that we can. And let's try to get him in the end zone. And for me, yeah, that's just not enough. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to use your receivers effectively, right? And you have a big receiver room, and everybody is good at something. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll give you the example. One spring, I coached with Cam Cameron, who was the Ravens offensive coordinator, head coach, all this. And his thing was, everybody is good at something. Find what that person is good at, and then you create plays around that person to make them better on the field. So you have all these receivers. They're all good at something. Find what they're good at, and let's start creating plays off what they're good at, right? Brandon Rice is probably good on those bubbles and that hitch, and just let him run and go, right? Todd Washington, excellent slot receiver. You know what I mean? Maybe we need to start giving him slants, outs to the flats and things like that. Zach Branch is just Zach Branch. Dorian Springer, we don't know what he's good at, because I think he has not gotten the opportunity to do what he wanted. We know what he can do, and we've seen it last year. But in this offense, he's not successful, right? Like, what we expect from Dorian Springer is not what we've gotten up to 7 games this year. So they need to find where he's good at, and they need to find where each one of these receivers are good at. The offensive line is just I don't know how you don't get better there, right? And this is starting to look like Cincinnati Bengals when they first got Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes when he first got to Kansas City, right? That is the most important, besides the quarterback, that is the most important spot you need to recruit, because you need to protect your quarterback, because the quarterback's the most important person on the field. Like, there's no way they should be that bad 2 weeks in a row. There's no way that Caleb doesn't have time, right? Like, Like, I just don't get that. That was so confusing to me. What did he get sacked 4 times last night? And there was 6 times. There was times where as soon as he got the ball, there were people in his face. He was running an RPO, and the dude hit Zachariah Branch and sacked Caleb. Like, I'm like, this is unacceptable, right? And we could go and we could say Caleb lost the game, and we could go and say they need to fix this and they need to fix that. I think we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, and I don't think Lincoln Riley is doing the things to put his team in the best situation possible, right? And I'm not taking anything from Lincoln Riley as being a head coach, but there's a lot of issues that are on the field that are starting to show up, right? And I know Jamal, you know, you brought a lot of Oklahoma stats, and all this stuff is coming to fruition now. Like, we are just not doing what we need to do, right? We can't travel well. That's an issue. So how are you going to go to a college football playoff and you can't travel well? We're not playing complete games, right? We're getting to points to where we have big leads and all of a sudden we give the leads up because we're letting off the gas. Our O-line, we're rotating on the O-line. We don't have receivers separating and making big plays and taking the tops off. Everything is starting to get exposed. You have 7 weeks worth of films, and these coaches are watching 7 weeks worth of film, and you either need to make a change or let your contract wear out. It's time for you to go. You know what I mean? Let's get to some of these questions. I'm just disappointed about last night.
I'll say one thing here about the wide receivers, you know, because I know there was some conversation about that earlier. You know, this is where you really miss Jordan Addison. I'll tell you, you know, last year at Oregon State, at UCLA, they don't win those games without Jordan Addison, and his ability to just separate at will was the ultimate security blanket. And it was kind of the conversation a lot of folks were having earlier this year around, hey, it doesn't matter. You don't need a wide receiver 1 or 2. You got 8 wide receivers. It doesn't matter. The depth is there. They can do it all. And this is where it now starts showing up. This is why I've been preaching why you need to have options. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. You need to be able to figure out that hierarchy early in the season. They were so concerned with stat padding and getting Caleb big, meaningless stats to kind of keep his Heisman campaign going that they didn't do the little things in terms of understanding what the hierarchy is. And this is now the difference. This receiving core is not the same as last year's receiving core. Last year's wide receiver 1 was a first-round NFL pick. This year's wide receiver 1 is probably a 6th-round NFL pick. You saw it again last night. These guys can't get separation against elite competition. And so when you combine the lack of separation with now Caleb's natural instinct of wanting to create and wanting to be creative and wanting to hold the ball, that's where you start dancing around and creating a lack of flow for the offense. So they, as crazy as this sounds from an air raid perspective, this week moving forward now, they actually kind of need to find a pass offense identity of who are they going to go to in what situation to kind of get ready for some of these bigger games here in a couple of weeks.
Let's see. USC Jay said 2 weeks in a row, a good DC playing well for us. We seem totally unprepared and predictable. Well, so I wouldn't say unprepared. I'm pretty sure they were prepared technically, but predictable is just what air raid offenses are, right? That's what Cliff Kingsbury's issue was when he went to the NFL. Everybody knew what he was going to do. Everybody knew what Mike Leach is going to do. The thing with the air raid is just stop it. You know what I mean? They have this whole mentality of just stop it. If you could stop it, then we'll find something else. But, you know, Marcus Freeman is a defensive guy. He's a defensive head coach, right? Here's the thing. Somebody said this the other day. They said Oklahoma's a lot better on defense now. And I was like, you know why they're better? Because they went and got Clemson's DC as the head coach that won their national championships. Like, you know, and here's the issue with air raid. Air raid guys think they could score more points than you. And they kind of put defense on the back burner and just let it simmer, right? And then all of a sudden, when you can't score an air raid, and then it's time to put it on the front burner and you need the water to boil, the water doesn't boil right away. Like, it's just been there, you know what I mean, at 100 degrees. Now you needed to get to 212 now, and it doesn't happen that way. So, like, everybody says, like, oh, they don't make any adjustments. They don't make any adjustments. Because air raids really don't adjust. Air raids just trying to find the hole. When there's no hole that day for air raids, it's over. right? And you've seen it with Mike Leach. You've seen it with Hal Mummy, who's like the godfather of all these guys. You've seen it with Hal Mummy. You've seen it with Lincoln Riley. You see it with Graham Harrell. You see it with all these true air raid guys who come out of the Hal Mummy tree that if you're stopped, you're stopped. There's nothing else you could do about it. They start running the balls, throwing bubbles. And what happened at the end of last night's game? Throwing bubbles, throwing slants, running the ball. They're just trying to get something going. So, like, I don't think it was unprepared. It's just the predictability in it. And air raid is predictable. And all they're like is just stop us. All you can do is just try to stop us. So I think that was more the case. Let's see. Now that Caleb is out of the Heisman race, maybe Riley will call. I don't think he's out of the Heisman race. I think that's an overreaction. I don't think that he's out of the Heisman race. He may be less likely to win, but he also has 5 more games. He could do things in these next 5 games that completely changes your mind. You know what I mean? I don't think Caleb Williams is totally out of the Heisman race, but he has a lot of work to do to try to be a back-to-back Heisman winner right after last night's performance. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, Fred, and Ryan, please jump in. I think we're at about a 1 or 2% chance that he wins the Heisman at this point.
Damn, you're
I
tough.
I agree with you that it's very close, and here's why. This gauntlet of the second half is not as big a gauntlet anymore. Look, next week against Utah, Cam Rising hasn't played the whole season. This is not the same Utah game now. This is a lesser game. Utah may be ranked, but it's a lesser game. UCLA is playing on one side of the ball. They're lost on offense right now from a pass offense. That's a lesser game now. As sad as that is for me to say. Cal is a lesser game. It's not about balling out in the next 5 games. He's got 2 chances where he's got to go 2 for 2. He's at Oregon, home against Washington. And not only does SC have to win, he has to ball out in those games. I mean, we're talking 406 touchdowns, both games, to be able to overcome this. Because at the end of the day, he lost this game. And it was a rivalry game. And it's gonna push SC down. Look, honestly, I don't believe USC should be ranked in the top 25 right now. When you look at, you guys have kind of said it for a while about the preseason rankings being nonsense and, holding up to reputation. This is a 6-1 football team right now. What is the signature victory? The signature victory is against a 4-3 Arizona team that had to go into double overtime at home. The one ranked team this team has played, they got their doors blown off. Why should this team be in the top 25 based on resume in 2023? The only reason they're going to be ranked is because of reputation from last year and Caleb's Heisman. So this is where the point of departure is with this team. He's got 2 chances, and he's going to have to go 2 for 2 there and go nuts to overcome this, because last night was pretty catastrophic.
What do you think about that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little higher, but it's not likely. He's got a way to go and climb back up, and because even in last week against Arizona, didn't have 100 yards passing until the 2 minutes left in the third quarter. So the committee looks at things like that. So I think he still has a chance. I think it's a little higher than 1 to 2%, but it's not likely right now, especially with all these other QBs, what they're doing and what we saw yesterday in that Oregon Washington game and some of these other guys. But I think he can still make it happen. But there's a lot of work to be done. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So I don't think they're a college football playoff team. I wouldn't put them in the playoffs right now off their resume, what you give them now. I don't even think they're a New Year's Six team right now, right? I will say this, Jamal. I think they will have 3 chances. And when I say that, I think I watched, because my brother was at my house yesterday. I had a party at my house. My brother was at my house. I watched the Washington and Oregon game, and my brother went to Oregon, and I don't think they can outscore us on either side of the ball. I think that eventually SC will have. I think Caleb will have 3 chances and 3 big games to try to get his Heisman back in that situation. You know what I mean? I think he'll have Oregon, Washington, and then the Pac-12 championship. Because I think SC will go to the Pac-12 championship, because I can't see anybody outscoring us in the Pac-12. That's just me. That's my opinion. And from that perspective, right? So In that situation, he does have his chances. Is he the front runner right now? No, he's not the front runner anymore. Does he have a lot of work to do? Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, he has a ton of work to do. He needs he needs to stay after school and put in a lot of extra credit if he wants to win the Heisman again. To completely forget a 3 interception game, he has to put in a whole bunch of work. Let's see what this one says. Wonder if Riley has it in as a higher offensive coordinator and change the offense like Saban did a few years ago. Absolutely not. Ron Burgundy, absolutely not. You stay classy. So here's the thing with air raid guys, right? Air raid guys are stubborn and cocky, right? They are the worst two combinations ever. And that goes back to my comment, like I said before, like they don't change anything, right? Because they feel like they know where all the holes are, they this and that, and they feel like they call the best play. That Jamal actually is probably the best thing to happen to Chip Kelly was him taking his air raid to the NFL, getting his doors kicked in, him changing his offense, and like, look, this is what I need to do to become a better person. College air raid guys, because they put up so many yards and so many points, like, all right, we had one bad game. Right. Next week, they may go out and put up 500 yards of offense, score 50 points. I said might. I'm not saying they are going to do it. I said might. And just an example, like, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, we got it back. You know what I mean? They may go 2 weeks of scoring 50 points and putting up 500 yards of offense each week. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got it back. We just had a bad game. You know what I mean? And that's just how air raid guys think. I don't see them. I don't see Lincoln Riley changing his offense or anything like that. I can't see that happening. What do you guys think?
I can't either. I mean, it's his offense. So, I mean, he's not, if it was a defense, like Nick Saban's a defensive guy. So obviously he's going to make changes on offense. So I can't see the offensive architect having someone else come in and completely redesign it.
Yeah, no, Ron Burgundy. I mean, it's a great question. If this was, hey, does he hire a defensive coordinator? Does he have to sort of really kind of change it up? Because that's kind of the analogy, right? Saban was a defensive guy, and he knew he needed to bring in expertise on offense that he maybe didn't have to balance his team out as where the trends of college football was going. If Riley says, hey, I got the offense, but I really am in over my head defensively, I need to be able to kind of cede control to someone who's very credible, then that would kind of be the analogy here. This is a great question. But if Riley were to give up offensive control at that point, if I were the athletic director, I'd say, well, then it's time for a new coach, because then what are you expecting to do? Right? You're the offensive guy who wants to outsource the offense. You know, at that point, it's sort of what exactly is your role as head coach then?
Being a professor, your TA teach the class totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. If it wasn't about Pat and Caleb's stats, what do you guys think is happening with our offense not clicking and looking so mediocre at best? Offensive line. The offensive line. And then also, Jamal, you said it too. You want to know the biggest kryptonite to air raid offense? Dropping 8. If I could drop 8 and get pressure with 3, there's not they struggle. And just go look at Texas Tech with Mike Leach. Go look at Kentucky in the early 2000s with Hal Mumme. Go look at all these guys who are air raid. I hate the air raid, by the way. So all these guys that are air raid gurus, like they're just like, you drop 8 on them and it's over, right? So it's the offensive line. You just got to protect them, and sometimes Caleb has to get it with his feet. What do you think, Jamal? How much? Wait, let's go to Ryan. Ryan, how much time you got left? I saw you got how much time you got?
Yeah,
you got to go.
I'm getting kicked out, so I've never been to a hotel that's so on time with their checkouts. I did a late checkout. They were here at 11. Now they're here at 11:30. So,
all right,
you guys finish up. We'll obviously do our recap tomorrow night. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Tough loss, but we'll see what this team does. I mean, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but now it's an opportunity to see what this team's really made of and how they bounce back. So, you know me, I'll always in with the positives. How they gonna rebound after this one? But I'll talk to you guys in LA. All right.
All right. I'll see you, Ryan. See you tomorrow.
Safe travels.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Yep. All right, Jamal, go ahead. I knew you. I saw you had something. The mad scientist had something great created in there. Go ahead.
I think Raider Trojan. I mean, it's a terrific question. I think this is sort of an opportunity now to run the ball more, and I think Fred, we've been talking about it. Look, I think Marshawn Lloyd in terms of size, in terms of quickness, in terms of physical attributes, is probably the most talented running back USC has had since Bush and White. I mean, he is the most talented specimen at running back USC has had since those guys. And so I think and look, if you look at last night, he had 8 carries. I mean, and Austin Jones at 11. And I know, Fred, this is where you and I disagree on Austin Jones. I know you love him. I'm sort of lukewarm on him. But I want to see a game where Marshawn Lloyd gets 20 carries. I think
Yeah, I do too. I don't disagree. Let me clear that up. I don't disagree with you. I feel Marshawn Lloyd should be the starting running back because you could do so much stuff with him. You could screen with him. He could run the power game. You could run outside zone. I think Austin Jones is a great change-up running back to where if Marshawn Lloyd has 20, Austin Jones should have 10, and his 10 yards should be between 50 and 80 yards. You know what I mean? But the bulk of the carries and the star running back should be Marshawn Lloyd. So I need to clear that up for you. Like,
I appreciate that, Fred. And I think starting with Marshawn Lloyd, getting him lather, getting him touches, and then go and play action off of that, and then getting Branch involved off of that, off of some jet sweeps, off of that run, off of that variation, and then maybe running some double moves and some hitches with Taj and Brennan Rice. But you start having kind of more of an identity. Like, we want to start establishing Lloyd, then variation off of that with Branch, then variation off of that of kind of double moves and hitches and going vertical with Washington and Rice. And there's a structure to the offense. Right now, it's just been, hey, let Caleb drop back, dance around, really sort of leverage the air raid space and just stat pat. And that's been fine against the Nevadas of the world and the Stanfords of the world and the San Jose States of the world. And that's probably a better strategy for those games because you get more points, you get more stats, you get more hype. But that doesn't help you in the bigger games. In the bigger games, you need an offensive identity. And I think I would start with Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that one. Cliff Kingsbury screwed USC. Why is he on the staff? Agrees to. Well, Cliff Kingsbury's on the staff because he's a very knowledgeable mind about this offense. He didn't screw USC. I'll give you this situation, Brenton. Say whatever you do, your profession, right? You got offered a new job somewhere, and then all of a sudden another company comes, maybe the biggest company in your industry comes and says, we want to offer you the job as the chief of whatever your position is, and we want to pay you $100 million, and you have complete control of your department. I guarantee you, I put my whole paycheck on it, that you will be out of that door within 5 minutes apologizing to the company that just hired you. It's not so much a screwed, it's an opportunity. And you don't pass opportunities, right? He hired by USC as offensive coordinator, yes. But he got a better opportunity. I'm pretty sure at that time, Clay Helton understood. I understood because I would have done it. I'm pretty sure, Jamal, you would have done the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was a better opportunity. It wasn't so much as screwing him. He just took an opportunity that he couldn't pass up. So I wouldn't go that far. He's there because he's a good friend to Lincoln Riley, and he understands that he's really good at calling offenses. And so that's an excellent analyst to have. So I think that's why.
The only 20 seconds there, Brenton. I mean, great feedback. And first of all, just great interaction. We appreciate it so much. So thank you so much for your engagement. Kingsbury is just another one of these air raid guys, right? I mean, he's another guy in that Mike Leach, Hal Mummy tree. These guys are very tied to each other. And frankly, we can get into this, Coach, later in the week. But that's also one of the reasons why these guys are so tied to Grinch, because Grinch struggled at Ohio State. Grinch struggled at OU. Grinch has struggled at USC. We can sort of agree there. But the 2 years in between those 3 stops, where he almost sort of resurrected his career, was 2 years at Washington State, where he turned one of the worst defenses in the country to like an average 50-60 defense. Who was the coach of those Washington State teams? It was Mike Leach. And so there's a lot of sentimental feeling towards Grinch that he helped extend Mike Leach's career, the guru of all of these guys. And that's why these guys are so loyal to him. So it's very interesting how the air raid relationships are sort of playing out here. And it's something to be mindful of as we watch this team unfold later.
Coach and Jamal, this is 2 weeks where Caleb seemed to not start fast. Are we concerned that he may be burnt out and focusing more on the NFL draft? He just does not seem locked in. All right, so this is just opinion. I don't know. Haven't talked to the guy. I don't know Caleb Williams personally, right? So this is just opinion. There are rumors floating around that he may come back, right? Like if it's not right, he may come back. But I also think that it's not so much Caleb's fault. I think that the film is out and other defenses know how to stop Caleb Williams now. Not so much Caleb Williams, but the offense, right? And then when you go back to Jamal's point that he made that the receivers can't get open, like now he's forcing throws because I think the only thing that was on his mind, and if it was me, is I'm trying to win another Heisman. So I'm trying to do whatever I can. So I think he's overcompensating for winning another Heisman. And I think he had a little, like I said earlier, I think he got a little cocky because people started saying, like, he's the best in the game. There's nobody better than him. You go and watch Caleb Williams, you see how far above he is than everybody else. Like, that gets to you as a kid. And I think last night was a perfect example. Like, hey, man, I think last night humbled him. And if it didn't humble him, we got a lot more losses coming. What do you think about that, Jamal?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's LV Live. I mean, another great question. You're on fire today, with the questions and the engagement.
Jamal, just LV Live is one of our regulars. He's like on every Sunday with great questions.
And
So I
LV Live,
appreciate you.
much love to you, and thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate it. And so to sort of answer your question, it's a great one. You got to ask the why, right? And so if we look at the why, what has been the commonality these last 2 weeks? It's been schematic. And when you look at Arizona rush 3, drop 8, Notre Dame rush 4, drop 7, and they've been able to get the pressure. So the book now has been very similar with these two teams. That's really what is causing these slow starts, because you're crowding these passing lanes now. The windows are a lot narrower and the receivers aren't getting the separation that they need. So there's just no one kind of open. And then when you can get that pressure with 3 or 4 guys, you have the best of both worlds. You're stressed as a passer because you're under duress and there's really no one to throw the ball to. So that's really been the similarity that I have seen the last 2 weeks for these two slow starts. Now, having said that, I don't love Caleb's body language. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago at Arizona State. It sort of reared its ugly head. There was a little bit of just kind of detachment from the rest of the team, a little bit of entitlement where it's like, hey, I'm Caleb. Don't worry about it. I'll just take care of it. Like, I don't kind of like, you guys just do your thing. I'll take care of this. It kind of showed up again a little bit in that Arizona game late. And then it really showed up last night, even with some dust ups with Riley. So that's the one qualitative thing I will say. He's going to have to clean up his body language.
Yeah. Here, I wish Candace was on this one. For this one, Ray SoCal said, the current USC team is soft. Yeah. I will say this, though. I had an interesting conversation yesterday, and Terrence Austin was at my house. You remember Terrence Austin?
Yes, yeah.
I went to high school with him. Terrence Austin was at my house. We stayed friends this whole time from high school all the way through college and everything. He actually made a good point. He was like, college football is not the same thing. And he's like, it's not, you don't have guys that will die for the game. He was like, when we play, we're playing hurt. Like, they have to tell us to come out. I'll give you a story. When I was in Nebraska, I got knocked out. 30 TV commercials, this and that. I told them I was fine. I remember waking up, per se. And so they were like, no, you're done, blah, blah, blah. We were walking to the locker room. I kind of like stopped and hid in the crowd on the sideline. And then I found my helmet. And then like we went down and scored again. And we back on kickoff when I was on the field. And the trainers lost their mind. Right. And they were like, nope. And then they took the ear pads out so I can get another helmet. And so then they finally like forced me to go in the locker room. I don't see players doing that today. You know what I mean? Like, and it's nothing against the players. To them, actually, I'm kind of 50-50, Jamal, and I'll say it this way. To them, they're smarter because they understand how to take care of their bodies for the long run, right? The bad part about it, the pro to that is that they understand that they won't hurt when they get older. The con to it is they're not putting their body on the line to do whatever they need to do. You know what I mean? So there's always pros and cons in everything you do.
Yes.
So like you see this. So like that Notre Dame team yesterday is also soft compared to the Notre Dame teams that I played. But that Notre Dame team yesterday, the Arizona team from last week, was tougher than the SC team that's being put on the field right now.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Fred, and I completely agree with you. And it's a Ray SoCal with a really interesting question. Really, it's sort of spot on in a lot of ways. I think with nil, I think with the transfer portal, I think how transactional college football has become, players don't feel the need like that they have to kill themselves or they have to play hurt, because if there's a situation like that that presents themselves, they're going to say, well, I'm just going to transfer. I'm going to go to a better situation where I don't have to do that. And so the resilience becomes challenging. And, you know, that on top of the fact that, look, Riley is a finesse coach, right? I mean, it's all about offensive genius and schematics and play calling and getting really fast, twitchy, skilled guys out in space. It's not a 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's not Kirby Smart. It's not Nick Saban. It's not Bo Schembechler or Woody Hayes. You know, so he's more of a finesse guy to begin with. That's his ethos. That's what USC, that's what the Trojan family signed up for when wanting him, because we wanted his mind. So the combination of him being finesse with the transfer portal, but I agree with you, he needs to be able to institute enough toughness, just enough toughness to be able to be resilient in these bigger games down the line.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So this is the last one. They're all Texas Tech guys. So they're not Texas Tech guys, and I'll give you guys a lesson of the air raid. The air raid started with a guy named Hal Mummy. Hal Mummy is like the Al Capone of air raid, right? He's like he was at Kentucky, he was that Kentucky team that was undefeated in 2006. That was a Hal Mummy guy, and he's the one that started this. Mike Leach worked for Hal Mummy, and then you have all these guys that's branched off. So Hal Mummy like started this, and Mike Leach went to Texas Tech, and then had Cliff Kingsbury and all those guys. I don't know Riley's route, but Hal Mummy is like the guy that started this. He was like at McMurray State and everything. So when you talk air raid, it's like Hal Mummy,
Yeah.
right? And then Mike Leach is the most famous guy of late, but you start talking Hal Mummy. But with that being said, they need to learn defense, and they need to understand how important defense is. They need to be a little bit more physical, and they need to run the ball. So definitely. One more, Jamal. Can we get one more?
Absolutely.
One more.
We'll end it fittingly with LV Live. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Coach and Jamal, with team scheming to drop 7 and 8, maybe Riley should run more slants or curl routes and be okay with 5 to 7 yards gains as opposed to 10 to 15 yards a game. It's a simple fix. All right. You know what? You're absolutely right. And here's the crazy part about it. Hal Mummy was a guy, this air raid offense, that started with Hal Mummy. He was a guy that always said, take what you get. So whatever you give me, I'm going to take it. So he was a dink and dunker. Like he'll take hitch. You're going to give me a 5-yard hitch? 2 5-yard hitches. I'm going to take my way all the way down the field and score. I don't know where it sped up when they started doing this fast pace. And then everybody has a little something to it, right? Bill Walsh's West Coast offense isn't the same as Mike Shanahan's West Coast offense, right? You know what I mean? So they started adding things to it. So LV Live, you're 100% right. If they go back to the original scheme of air raid of take what you give me, that's 100% correct. I can't even argue with that one. You're 100% right with that one. So if they go back to the basis of it, yes, they should do that. What do you think, Jamal?
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you, and it's very astute. Is take what the defense gives you throwing the ball, but then again, it comes back down to that Marshawn Lloyd point, because he's so big and physical and skilled that if you're only rushing with 3 or 4 and you're dropping 7 or 8 back, guess what? What does that mean? That means it's a light box, right? So if I give Marshawn Lloyd the ball, I'm going to be able to get 5-6 yards rushing consistently as well. So between 5-6 yards rushing and then 5 or 6 yards through the air, I'm going to be able to methodically move the ball down the field. Now, what is the defense going to do? They're going to realize, look, Lloyd is going crazy. I'm going to have to bring more people up. I got to make the box heavier. And so you're going to bring more people up in the box to contain that run game. And then what does that mean? That means that on the back end, you end up having more space to then do even more vertical things through the air. So you're absolutely right, LB Live, in terms of how to attack this, but it's a combination of taking what the defense gives you through the air, dinking and dumping, but then going back to that run game and then making that defense get out of that scheme of 3 or 4 guys rushing and 7 or 8 guys retreating and make them have a more intermediate kind of defensive scheme that then you can exploit with bigger plays.
All that is counting numbers, Jamal.
Yes, sir.
Counted the numbers. Hey, guys, we appreciate your questions. We're sorry we didn't get to all of them. I just got corrected. Leach was at Texas Tech. Riley was at Texas Tech under Leach. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah, so definitely. We appreciate you guys. We got the podcast coming out this week. We'll release on Tuesday and Friday. We'll have the recap tomorrow. We'll have the full staff. We'll have Ryan and Candace. If you guys want to see something very fun, I'm pretty sure our girl Candace is going to let SD have it on Tuesday. So
yes,
that one will be definitely, once we post that one. Friday, we will look at Utah. We appreciate all you guys' questions. We love Victory Sunday. Too bad it was not a victory this weekend. Hopefully we could bounce back. And like I say, that switch needs to be flipped, right? We know this team could be good. They just need to flip the switch, right? Thank you guys for your participating. Jamal, thank you for joining me on vacation. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Live free. Fight on.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Fred. Thanks so much, all.